Hi, welcome to Mercurius Being, Astro Update for all things Libra. I'm Amy Jensen, and today we're going to run through 3 events that occur pretty much right after each other. The Libra ingress, which happens on September 22nd here in the central time zone of the United States, and then the Mercury inferior conjunction, which happens on September 23rd. And then following that by just 2 days, we have the Libra new moon. So we're going to go through all of those events. Hopefully, I won't bog you down with too much information, and I hope we stay clear with all of that. That's always the hope, isn't it? That's always the hope, and that's always the intention, at least on my end, but we'll give it a whirl. All right, so we're going to start with the tarot card associated with Libra, which is the Justice card, and this is from the tarot Mucha. And since I'm kind of leaning forward weirdly, I'm probably not going to hold it up the whole time, so just take a look at that. So Justice, measuring all human deeds upon her golden scales, Justice restores balance by eliminating what is not needed. Acts of injustice meet with their rightful consequences, and her sword of truth dispels illusion. Do not think that you can avoid her gaze. She sees through any veil of self-deception in which you have switched yourself or swathed yourself. There is no need to fear her influence if your conscience is clear. What you have set into motion will come to its conclusion following the laws of the universe. If circumstances are not as you would have them be, learn the lesson now and be on the right side of justice next time. The sword is yours to wield as well when your heart is pure and your motives are true. So the key idea for the card, karma, the consequences of your deeds, facing reality, and putting things back in balance. All right, so kind of starting off this whole video with the theme of so the swords are always knowledge and cutting through, and a lot of air and intellectual energy. Libra is the second air sign. We have Gemini, Libra, and then Aquarius. But it's knowledge which comes from and through the heart, okay? And we'll talk about the heart chakra, which Libra is the right side of the heart chakra, Taurus being the left side. So kind of this theme of knowledge coming in through the heart, speaking words which uplift, which bring harmony and balance, because Libra is the scales. It's all about balancing. And then conversely, being aware of speaking ill of others, and how that ill speaking brings divisiveness, which would be more of a Martian quality, like me against someone else, we against someone else, someone against someone else. But interestingly, when I say that, Mars rules Aries, which is the archetype of the first house, which is the self, which is you having your agency and coming into this world and being you and acting as you. And then Libra is the polarity of Aries. It's the archetypal ruler of the 7th house of others and partnerships and general public. So it's really the first sign in the top of the natural chart, which brings you moving through all of that internal work up to like, okay, I've done my work now. Now the even more fun begins as you take all the work you've done and then bring it and add someone else into the picture and see how that balances. So it's really, there is a balance, as we know, with relationships of all types, back and forth, you know, forward and backwards, navigation, and finding what's fair and harmonious for all involved. All right, so I'll show you the chart quickly and get my other Libra info up. So we have the chart for the Libra ingress, which again, central time zone is 8:04 p.m. on September 22nd of 2022. So a lot of 22s, and Venus is at 22 degrees Virgo for this lunation, and then Venus is also at 22 degrees still the next day for the Mercury inferior conjunction. So I looked that sign up as well. So we just have the sun entering Libra. You know, Mercury's getting ready to join the sun. We'll talk about that in the heavens. And so what was I going to say about the chart? Okay, so Mercury and the sun are together. I've got a lot of information here. Okay, Libra, Venus at 22 degrees. Okay, opposing Jupiter. Expansive and overblown. So that air, Jupiter in Aries, so the fire might ignite the air a bit. And also at the same time, we have Neptune opposing the sun moving into Libra. I'm going to have to make sure I stay clear that I'm not saying new moon when I mean ingress. So this is just the first day when the sun first comes into Libra. So Jupiter in Aries, opposing it, expanding it. Neptune in Pisces. Neptune and the sun, so the sun is all about shining. It's your operating system, it's your vitality. It's obviously the center of our solar system and providing the heat and energy for all of us. And then Neptune is all about disillusion and illusion, but it also has great spiritual potential. So with Jupiter and Neptune together, so Jupiter blowing it up with that Aries energy, there is a lot of big spiritual potential at the same time, but I underlined in my notes through balance. So with Neptune, there's always the potential, and especially even with Libra, rose-colored glasses, Neptune, Pisces, overly idealistic. But the good news is it could really inflate that spiritual potential. But so maybe like expanding past limitations on a high level, but really staying balanced and embodying the energy, which would be more Venusian. At the same time, we have Pluto, the god of the underworld, trining. It has an inconjunct to the moon, but it trines the sun, Mercury, Venus. So that Lord of the underworld is restructuring and plays a part in this whole video today as well. So it's really kind of as a backdrop, or I almost want to say like a lower octave note, if you're thinking of music, to the melody then of Mercury and Sun conjuncting, which will be, as they say, under the horizon, but just really unseen by us because the Mercury is so close to the Sun and we won't see it. But the Lord of the underworld always supports transformation and digging deep and seeing into the dark. And then in the sign of Capricorn, of course, which it's been for a while, we'll move out of there in another few years, couple years, but really, you know, all about structure and really what is working, what's not working, and then individually, again, seeing into your own structures and how we can rework that. All right, so Libra, just as a sign, all right, so it's ruled by Venus. Again, the natural ruler of the 7th house. Everybody's house system is different, but just as you look at the natural zodiac or the archetype, it's the 7th house. Keywords: adaptable, affable, balancing, gracious, harmonious, modest, neat, refined, sociable. I would say just and justice and fair, not only of looks, but of attitude. There is a really big Libra energy of fairness. It's like if it's not fair. And so there's that energy of balancing and going into that. So there can be That sword and air energy, when I say fair and igniting some flame within us, again, having that polarity of the Mars-Venus energy, but it's lifting up that Mars energy at the navel and bringing it up to the heart, and then like doing something. So you might be pissed off about something at your navel center, let me put it this way, but you lift it up to the heart center, you're like, you still see the injustice, you see the unfairness, but then you can kind of make a logical plan and do something about it, not just grab your sword and cut someone's head off. It's like, okay, let's, maybe you bring your sword to the negotiation, but you set it aside and you sit down at the negotiating table and you like hammer something out. Okay. So Libra shadow would be identity built around fulfilling others' perceived needs, attaching onto the ideal, like pretty picture, okay, over accommodating, being unrealistic, indecisive, fickle, opinionless, disconnected to feelings, just all about the air and the head, or over processing. Medically, it rules the kidneys. It symbolizes balance and harmony, so homeostasis in the body. The kidneys, the pancreas, which secrete insulin and glucagon, so health problems associated with Libra would be kidney problems, hypoglycemia, venereal disease, and iron deficiency. So that lack of Mars, which rules iron. So this quote from Adam Gainsburg, Libra is the domain of consciousness involved in exploring other as mirror or window into the self, learning harmony and balance through exploration of extremes. So kind of like that pendulum, really like going all the way to one side and then all the way to the other side to see both extremes, and then kind of coming together to find the balance. So as a strategy, that's an interesting strategy sometimes, but it can really pull us a lot to see both sides so extremely, but it really gives us such a broad view of something. Before we come back to, if we only swing a little bit to side, you're missing a whole bunch of areas. So kind of bringing it all back into center. All right, how to be with others is an ongoing Libra learning. So this is still Adam's quote. This will force not only conflict, but periodic breakdown of the entrenched self-image. Libra requires relationships and interactions with others of all kinds and flavors. Through Libra's interaction with other, we learn about other people's realities, their way of communicating, their assumptions, beliefs, expressions, strengths, weaknesses, etc. We then discover how we naturally respond and react to them. Libra self-realization occurs through the direct experience of being profoundly received. So offering yourself, the first house, and then having that seventh house other, that polarity, that mirror receiving you, and then being accepted, welcomed, and honored by the other. All right, so that's just a bit about Libra. Venus, which rules Libra, is depicted nicely through the Empress card of the tarot. All right. The Empress is the embodiment of nature herself, the life giver, the sustaining love of the earth, offering its bounty. She is the source of all inborn talents, blessings, and blessing each of us with unique attributes that will serve us in our mortal incarnation. The Empress nourishes these gifts within us, encouraging as a mother encourages her children to be all they can be. All creative achievements spring from her, as wheat springs forth from the earth to feed its creatures. The Empress is crowned with dreamy poppies as well as wheat, for her power is not just in her earthly abundance, but in her feminine intuition and vision. She has great dreams for you and will help you bring them into being. Honor her by living a fruitful and grateful life. So key ideas: mother love, creative bounty, prosperity, nurturing care, and female sexuality. All right. So, just a few thoughts about Venus. So I was really getting like the idea of embodying the everyday life, like really, Venus is about being in your body. So in Taurus, we have a lot of the earthly, like sensing and feeling and the physical comforting, and then the Libra, the balancing, but it's just really about being in, and not just in your head, a note to all air signs, myself included, but really being in and experiencing the bounty of the garden of God. So every movement, every moment can be a doorway into the divine. So it's the act of seeing everything and everyone as part of this divine. It's kind of an everyday sense of devotion, a mindful glorification of the mundane as divine. So that idea of uplifting, coming up from the lower three chakras and embodying, all right? Okay, so some words about Venus. So I always think of Venus as being centripetal, so drawing in. It's attracting and attractive, magnetic and embodying. Venus, the planet, symbolizes our balance, our ability to balance and harmonize. And you've overdone your Venus if you are over balancing, over harmonizing, over what do I like after all? I don't know, because I'm just embodying what you want, that over balancing. And guilty. All right, so Venus rules Taurus and Libra, as I said. In Taurus, she embodies that which receives, feels, stabilizes, makes relationship with the physical environment, relationship with our nature, our physical nature, the body, and pleasure. In Libra, she embodies relational activity, the social realizing of self, and how we relate or project onto other people. So learning to be with others in authentic ways, to be present with other people, to really listen. And I know I've been on that the last few videos about that act of speaking and listening and silence and speech. And it really comes down to that balanced relationship of giving and receiving. We all know how it feels like to be in certain relationships where it's not an equal exchange, right? And it just feels imbalanced. You don't leave there feeling balanced and harmonized and uplifted and energized. Okay, so the sign for Venus is, if you ever, a circle over the cross. I didn't draw it out. So the spirit is above the cross, the material cross. So there is an uplifting nature. The key words: love, harmony, and unison. The receptive quality. So Venus is the goddess of love and art and music. Venus comes from the Latin venustus, meaning graceful. Venus rules the sense of touch and sense of disposition. It represents adaptation, which produces harmony. It is refined and fond of social pleasures. Its highest expression is love. It sees common interests where Mars, as I said, sees differences. So Venus is the brightest star in the heavens. Go through some of this a little faster. Venus rules Friday. So the chakra, as I said, related to Venus is the anahata, the unstruck sound, heart chakra. Venus rules young women, artists, musicians, bankers, lovers, maidens, mistresses, sweethearts, people closely linked to entertainment like music and art, and mediators. Banks, places of beauty, gardens, and bedrooms are all Venus places, and things like valuables, money, art, social pleasures, and harmony are all Venusian. So again, Venus also rules homeostasis and kidneys and veins. Let's see. It's linked to diabetes, insulin production and secretion, so overdoing the sweets, over attachment to all those good and sweet things in life, overindulgence of any type can lead to Venus imbalances. But Venus transits, as Venus goes through parts of your chart, are really good for restoring balance in the body overall and in general. So the metal associated with Venus is copper, and green, emerald green is always a Venus color, but I also think of pink, especially for Libra. So the Anahata chakra has 12 petals. It is symbolized, I didn't get much sleep last night. A familiar shape, Star of David, which is formed by 2 triangles. So it really contains all the elements. So the upward facing triangle and the downward facing triangle in perfect balance at the heart chakra. So as you know, we've got the 3 lower chakras, the 3 upper chakras, and then the Venus is the meeting place of all above and below. So these 12 petals, the Sanskrit letters that are associated with it, are all about the elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether, smell, taste, sight, touch, sound, and then also procreation and excretion. So there's a little bit of the lower chakras, or the lower processes of the body. So there's still a little stabilizing and a little earthiness, so that, but it's really about embodiment. And I love that about drawing in these other facets as we talk about Libra and Venus. But so the heart chakra contains those letters which represent the elements. So the Bija mantra for the heart chakra is Yam, Y-A, Anusvara, M with a dot above it, Yam. So if you'd like to do a little mantra for the heart chakra, it would be Yam. And I always think that's pretty easy to remember because it's very close to yum, and a lot of our earthly experiences, you know, should be kind of a yum. It should be pretty good. We try, right? Okay, so we're going to move into the one other thing. So I already talked about the aspects. One other thing, I'm kind of moving fast. All right, one other thing with the Libra ingress, and that is, it is close to a fixed star called Denebola, which is the Beta Leonis. It's the blue star in the tail of the lion. And this is from astrologyking.com. So the fixed star, Denebola, there we go, is the nature of Saturn and Venus. So there's Saturn and Venus, but then another site, it's also a little Uranian. So Ptolemy gave it the Saturn-Venus quality, that's what he stated, which must make it at least mildly benefic, even in traditional astrology, since Venus was held to be the only planet that could really get along with Saturn. The tails, so this is in the tail of the lion. So so the sun is not like next to Denebola, so this is the sun, Denebola is above it, but it's the same kind of slice of the heaven if you're going to peer out at it. Okay, so it's in the tail of the lion, so it kind of tells about that area. The tails of the celestial creatures are at least as important as their heads, being in some cases their weaponry, Scorpio, in others the means of communication with Cetus, the whales, in others they're linked to the past, and of course sometimes the part we don't talk about. The lion's tail also has the quality of being farthest from the end that one should approach very carefully with the lion. So it has a Venusian quality of peace and safety about it. But we should still not be tempted into pulling the lion's tail. Therein lies the Saturn quality. So I thought these were just interesting little points. We'll not pay much mind to it, but just with Queen Elizabeth's passing and then King Charles coming to the throne at the same time as the sun is lined up with Denebola. Therefore, we should expect that this star symbolizes strength from the lion, along with the ability and the need to use it wisely and constructively. There should be the note of looking forward, while at the same time being able to draw upon past experience gained at the head end of the animal, so to say, since the lion faces back down the zodiac. So perhaps the Achilles heel of monarchs, even the most progressive of them, is that their positions are so much steeped in past tradition that it is all too difficult to come forward from it, even if they want to. Thus, from this special forward-looking attribute of Denebola, we might well ponder that on this star, strong in their horoscope, is at least well favored and possibly more so in our times than the mighty Regulus, which is the heart of the lion, at his service. And Regulus is usually pretty prominent in charts of monarchs and leaders. And those are indeed the qualities of Denebola. So Denebola rules the front of the chest of the human body, and then the Leo constellation is associated with royal events, especially the ascension or death of kings and queens, the election of death of heads of states, assassinations, uprisings and massacres, currency and the stock exchange, the Vatican and the European Union. So I just thought that was really interesting. Also, another planetary attribute is Uranus. So it could have Uranus, Mercury, which Mercury, as we know, is right there with the sun as well. Quarrelsome nature, with the liking for legal action attributed to Denebola. It could also mean that this star is the cause of very exciting or unexpected events, which would be Uranian. But there could also be a lot of mental energy and a lot of mental discord. But again, if we just want to spin it a little bit to the more favorable aspect of Uranus, which is more reform and progress, I say we can do that. All right, so that is that. As you know, another way of talking about the Libra ingress, the sun moving into Libra, is it's the second balance point of the year. It is the autumnal equinox. So we have equal day and night at these two parts of the year, and it is the time when really, if we think of the winter solstice as the new moon for the year, you know, the sun is at the lowest, you know, at least in the northern hemisphere. Then it grows. We're at a balance point at the vernal equinox, and then at summer, in the summer solstice, the sun is the highest. It's like the full moon for the year, and so now we're at the last quarter moon really for the year. Saturn is exalted at this time in the sign of Libra because, as you can tell, I noticed a few leaves were falling as I was talking, and the sun is dying in the sky at this time. So Saturn is exalted at this time, and Saturn and Libra work well together because they are all about, you know, justice and fairness and kind of getting things done. Okay, so I'm going to move into the Mercury inferior conjunction with the sun. So that happens at, I didn't really mark up this chart much. It's not terribly different than the last chart. And again, everybody, your locations are different, so don't mind where things are in the chart. But so Mercury and the sun joining up in the heavens. Venus is close by at 22 degrees Virgo. And then they'll all be meeting up a little bit more later. All right. And actually, the moon at this degree, now don't quote me on this because I did not look it up, but it's at 29 degrees Leo, at the Mercury inferior conjunction. I can look this up and stick it in the notes, but I think that's close to the fixed star Regulus, if I'm not mistaken. So that would be the heart of the lion, okay? So just interesting timing, right, for the ascension to the throne and the passing of Queen Elizabeth. All right, so I've really been feeling into this Mercury inferior conjunction with the sun energy. And that could be because I've been consciously working with this energy for a while, and I will be doing a workshop in December for the next Mercury retrograde period, which will be the first one in Earth signs for the next year. We've been in the retrograde air signs all year. We had Aquarius and Gemini, and then Libra is the last one of this year, elemental sign. So it is exact on September 23rd. So Mercury's meeting up with the sun in the heavens, but it'll be Earth, Mercury, and then the sun. Okay, so Mercury is going to be between us and the sun, so we can't see it, so it's invisible. Mercury is acting as a mediator. It's acting as a bridge from us and our physical embodiment here on Earth and us as people to the center of our universe, to the spirit, to the limitless potential. Mercury's our messenger and delivering that message to the monarch, the sun. So for this inferior conjunction, it's exact on the 23rd at 1:49 a.m. Central Time, but it's active a day before, so September 22nd, which is the Libra ingress, and then also the 24th, and then the 25th is the new moon. So I really think we're just coming up to a lot of potent energy from the 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th. Those 4 days are kind of a powerhouse, right? So when Mercury meets up with the sun, it's the heart of the Mercury retrograde period. So on August 27th, that was also, I lose track of days around here. So that was a new moon in Virgo, and also Mercury maximum elongation as evening star. So in the evening star, in the west, after the sunset, you could see Mercury, and it's as far away in the evening as it was going to get from the sun at that point. But that's kind of the start of this whole retrograde period. And then Mercury went retrograde on September 9th. Now it's meeting up with the sun, so all of the work we've been doing and thinking about and all the things that have been precipitating into our consciousness and those things that we've been consciously drawing forward and clearing out and bringing forward, intentionally, we're offering to the sun at this time. And then Mercury will station direct October 2nd. It will have maximum elongation. It'll show up in the morning sky before the Earth, and I knew Mosquito Squad was going to come at this time. So I'm going to pause and we'll start up again. Hello, we are back. Okay, I think we left off at Mercury max elongation as the morning star, which will occur October 8th. And then Mercury will be back to its original degree where it began the whole retrograde period on October 17th. So this conjunction occurs at 1 degree Libra, and so you'll really feel it in your chart if you're conscious of it, but also if you have a planet or a sensitive point between, let's say, like 26 degrees mutable signs to maybe 6 degrees of cardinal signs. At the widest, I would say probably 5 degrees on either side of exact. And that's the material that I've been mining in my own personal work, is what it touches in my chart, where it is in my chart, but just in general, you can still use this time if you don't know where it is in your chart, to still make that plea again to spirit, to the monarch, to the life giver. I really like the idea of the infinite, potentiality that the sun holds. So the Sabian symbol for this degree is the same one that was the ingress, so I didn't need to read it twice. So it's 1 degree Libra. So the little statement, again, from wonderful Lynda Hill's book. So the statement for this degree is, a butterfly preserved and made perfect with a dart through it. So the commentary on this is, and I just thought this was interesting because I didn't know that they were making a Marilyn Monroe movie, and I guess it just premiered at a film festival. Anyway, so the statement is, a butterfly preserved and made perfect with a dart through it. So the commentary. So this image is an image of beauty captured and preserved for it to be admired and appreciated. People such as Marilyn Monroe, James Dean, JFK, Princess Di can appear like the butterfly that is preserved and made perfect. They inspire awe and beauty in us. They represent something we aspire to and long for. No matter how old they were when they died, their deaths feel somewhat like a sacrifice. They left us far too soon. However, like the butterfly, they will remain forever beautiful and unchanging in our minds and culture. Their butterfly is preserved and made perfect by being kept forever in this perfect, unchanging state. So the oracle for this degree is, beauty in shape or form has been frozen in one moment, denying the natural processes of decay. An archetypal death is symbolized, and perhaps a type of perfection is enshrined through a sacrifice. As inspiring as this process can be, it can show difficulties in shifting or moving on. This symbol can also picture an event that is frozen in time, like something that we just can't forget or let go of. Feelings of being stuck and immobilized, whether real or imagined, won't help at the moment. Perhaps there's a feeling that you or someone else are being used for something that you don't agree with or can't really benefit from. A movie may be playing in your mind over and over, like it's somehow pinned on a dart. Whatever the situation, is there progress being made, or is this a situation of capture, sacrifice, and death? Is something being postponed because of an inability to move? What sacrifices are being asked? Is sacrifice really necessary, or is someone being used as a martyr, tied to a situation or an ideal? Are judgments being made on outer beauty rather than inner depth? Are issues from the past pinning you down and stopping you from forward movement? So those are just some good questions to ponder at this time. I thought it was interesting too with the aspects to the Libra ingress with that Neptune of sacrifice and martyrdom, which are associated with Neptune and Pisces. But also as we move into this period where Mercury meets up with the Sun, you know, what are we letting go of? What old story, what old movie are we letting go of? And what new thing, new situation, new intention, new energy are we trying to draw into our lives? And again, so just a lot of evaluation is going on, which it always does during this point and really forever. So these 3 days, this time, this Mercury inferior conjunction, it's a time to get a glance into the future, and then through this by reviewing the past. So all those questions from the oracle. So possibilities, thinking of possibilities, thinking of limitations, and are those created in the mind? Are we stuck in those limitations? You know, are we planting new seeds of intention? Also, because it's a retrograde period, if your dream or intention has already been around for a while, if it's something that you've been working on or have revisited or been, you know, touched upon, you know, a couple times, 2-3 times, it might really be a good time for moving forward. Usually Mercury retrograde isn't a time for like moving forward as such. We kind of revise and reevaluate and do all of those RE words at the Mercury retrograde time. And then after the period, then it's a time to move forward. But if it's a project or something that you have been working on, an idea, some goal that you have had that's been in the works, it might surprise you as being a time where you do move forward with it, okay? Or you gain a lot of clarity around it, like some problem or some blockage to it that you couldn't quite get your finger on. So actually this workshop, the next Mercury retrograde period workshop, I've been getting a lot of clarity around that. I tried to offer it at the last couple retrogrades and it just wasn't time, it wasn't right, but now it feels like it will be, but we'll see if I actually offer it, but it's in the works, okay? So revisiting, revising, reviewing are all good things to be doing. Revisiting this goal, dream, or creation. So at the inferior conjunction on the 23rd, but also the 22nd, 23rd, 24th, it is a great time for your vision board and journaling, oracle decks, the I Ching, prayer, affirmation, like cleaning up and revamping areas of your house, always. But that's kind of a constant, right? But like especially the area where you do your creative work, or you do your writing, or you're doing your prayer or meditation, or your yogasana practice, mantra practice. It's a great time to just like freshen up those rooms and just start fresh again, revisit, renew those areas. So renewal of those areas. Okay, it is also a good time for, and I know I've been on this kick throughout the Virgo season, to make changes and shifts in your lifestyle. And especially with Venus still in Virgo, and Venus, also bringing about balance and harmony and positive changes in that way, or seeing where you're imbalanced. So making changes to the way your day is divided up, your rhythms, your cycles, your lifestyle. Ask for inspiration and insight from your guides, from your prayer, however you do that, and also your guides, your inner guide, your body, really listening in and tuning into what's alive in you and what needs to be balanced. Recharge in nature. I think I'm going to say that probably every video in some way. Rejuvenate yourself. Again, creating that sacred space around you so it feels clean and it feels good and it feels harmonious, like feng shui or vastu. But also clear the space within you, kind of clearing out. The journaling always helps with that, for myself anyway. Journaling and obviously walking and spiritual practice, but really clearing out your own physical and spiritual vehicle and the psychic space that is within you. Nature and beauty, and really digging into the practice of gratitude and offering. So if you're out in nature, if you can offer a little something back to nature, an appreciative statement or glance or watering or a gesture, a rock, a flower, a stone, or just a heartfelt, thank you trees for being awesome and providing shelter and shade, whatever that might be. So just really amp up your appreciation and your gratitude. And again, that goes back to the beginning of the video when I talked about really seeing the divine in everything and every moment and in every person. And that would go for, like, it's really easy to appreciate nature when you're sitting out and it's beautiful right now. But appreciate nature and appreciate land and appreciate concrete, appreciate rundown businesses and buildings and crumbling things and things in decay, because they too are just moving through another cycle. And maybe by thanking or seeing the beauty in it or seeing the potential, you can also be planting seeds, of potential for those areas. So not making any judgment, aesthetic judgment about those things that may not appear as easily, as easily acknowledgeable as some something beautiful or a beautiful vista. All right, I'm preaching, aren't I? All right, I'm just gonna say a minute, spend a minute, say something, read something about Venus at 22 Virgo, but of course it's 22 Virgo plus some degrees, so for Sabian symbols, you always round up to the next degree. And the statement for this degree is, a lion tamer rushes fearlessly into the circus arena. I'll just read the oracle on this. With this degree, there's a need for self-discipline and mastery. Being prepared to take on things that are unknown or risky may lead to excitement, but how much is being risked in order to accept the challenge? So maybe you're rushing into, you know, I wasn't going to include this. I'm going to back up for a second. But then after going over the Leo constellation information, I thought, because the 22 Virgo Venus just kept coming to me, because, you know, 22, September 22nd ingress, 2022, and then Venus at 22 degrees now, and then Venus will meet up with the sun on October 22nd. So again, just numbers sometimes, you know, kind of like knock at me a little bit, just tap on my shoulders. So then when I'm reading it, I'm like, oh, well, the lion tamer, and then the lion constellation. So the lion tamer fearlessly into the circus arena. Back to the symbol. Okay, one has to be cautious with every move, as there's the need to anticipate every type of outcome or eventuality. So if you're in the ring, if you're pulling on the lion's tail, you gotta kind of think about all the outcomes. In order to survive or win in this situation, there's a need to bite the bullet and to put the fears behind you. It is not that you need to extinguish powerful emotions and energies, but by skillfully manipulating things, the outcome will see you being the one in charge. As long as you're aware of all the possible consequences, things should turn out okay. However, with this symbol, there's a question as to what degree the risks are real and to what degree they are imagined. It is common for the lions to be well fed by the lion tamer before he ventures into the arena, reducing any real risk of danger. The audience, oblivious of the methods the lion tamer utilizes or undertakes, are gripped by their own fears or the way they believe they would act if they were in his or her place. However, this symbol can reflect that you are allowing others to think you are braver and taking more risks than you really are. This can easily give you an advantage over others for a while, but the audience can easily become disillusioned if the truth becomes known. Whatever, how prepared are you for what may happen? Once you're out there in the circus arena, you're committed to it with no easy turning back. All right. So that's the symbol for Venus at this time. We are moving to our last chart and our last event, which is the Libra new moon, and it will be on at 4:55 p.m. on Sunday, September 22nd, September 25th. And of course, this is where I'm at, but not necessarily where you're at. So we've got a little party up in the heavens with the moon, the sun, Mercury, and Venus. And then all the way across the heavens, we have from Pluto all the way over to Uranus, with Jupiter and Neptune in the middle, all kind of putting their 2 cents in, shall we say. So I will start with the Sabian symbol for this degree. And so by this time, we've moved away from the butterfly, right? Preserved and made perfect with a dart through it. And we are a couple degrees from that, up to Libra 3. The dawn of a new day reveals that everything has changed. As I said, these 4 days have a lot of potential and for transformation, okay? So on the Libra new moon, the dawn of a new day reveals everything changed. So this new day may not have dawned yet, but it is definitely on its way. It's hard to believe at first, but eventually it will dawn on you that many facets of your situation are different in the light of this new day. Life may have been difficult or things unsure, and you may feel like you've been through a long night or a period of darkness. Perhaps someone has been too comfortable in their habits or in their complacency and has let things just go on and on. There may need to be major changes in attitude with a new situation or information before you. I'm just going to jump in here. And this could even be, if that Uranus energy kind of, sparks a little, some bigger change than you thought might be popping up at this time. All right, so there may need to be major changes. Take heart. Realize that the darkness is abating and gradually let go of what went before. Realize that it's come time to let go of the old conditions and move on. This is an opportunity to seize the day, to see that there is light all around you. A change of scene can affect how you feel and how things appear. How does or how will this new day affect you? Only you can know. However, getting up and seeing the dawn can bring spiritual messages about the direction you are moving towards. It can infuse you with hope and energy for the future. So I thought that was just lovely. So that's the degree for the sun on the new moon, which, as you know, is the seed of the whole cycle. What the new moon promises, the full moon fulfills. So there's a lot of seeding energy going on between the Mercury inferior conjunction and then the new moon. So the aspects I'd like to just point out. So as I said, Mercury, Moon, Sun, Mercury, Venus, all hanging out up there in the heavens. Mercury's past, it's still retrograde, it's moving away from the sun, past their conjunction, so they've had their little conversation, and then Mercury is like, hey, I've had the conversation with the sun, and now it's going to meet up with Venus on the 26th, and then Venus is going to move into Libra, the sign that she rules, on the 29th. So it's kind of like there's a lot of little scuttlebutt. They're finishing up some Virgo work, and then everybody's going to be getting on board with moving forward into Libra. And what is that seeding? So at that time, so Jupiter is still opposing. It's only been a couple days, so Jupiter is still opposing the sun. So still expanding and magnifying that Aries Jupiter energy. Lots of hot air. At the same time, I'm trying to do this looking through the chart. So we've got Saturn in Aquarius and then Uranus in Taurus, and they're making the same aspect. It's a sesquiquadrate, a square and a half, to the new moon, the sun and the moon. So it's not a big aspect, but with both of them exactly forming this aspect, it's like a lot of directed energy towards the sun and the moon. So I was getting this old versus new vibe. Uranus and Saturn had been squaring each other in the heavens. We're past that now, but that energy is still in the air. Well, we're not even that much past it. I mean, it's still active, let's say. So Saturn in Aquarius. Saturn was the old ruler of Aquarius. Uranus is designated as the modern ruler of Aquarius, and that's in your root chakra. Aquarius is, and then Taurus, where Uranus is transiting, is your heart chakra. It's the left side of the heart chakra. And then, square and a halving the sun and the moon. Old versus new, pushing change. So there's this seasonal change, the autumn change, but also structures are changing. Maybe earth structures, physical structures, maybe for the earth itself, shaking things up, and just energy changing, because it's Aquarius, and so the prana, the energy that's coming in, the incoming energy from guidance or from above, electrical. What else can I say about that? Just innovative. Let's put that one in there. But seeking balance, or kind of pushing balance. So maybe, again, if there has been, I'm getting a little bombarded with leaves here, the imbalance, Libra's coming onto the scene, sun and moon in Libra, moving into balance, equals day and night, balance times, old versus the new. Maybe we'll get a little more balance with this going on, but it's pushing it. So it's a square and a half, so it's not necessarily comfortable, okay? What surprisingly is comfortable is Pluto still trining Sun and Moon. Before, in the other chart, it was trining Sun, Mercury, but it's trining Sun, Moon, Venus, Mercury, all up here. They're all getting a nice trine, a nice support from the god of the underworld in the sign of structure, Capricorn, which Saturn rules. So transforming structures, transforming your subconscious mind, the habits, the fallbacks, all the fear and the shadow stuff, right? Really supported to continue digging deep. Really be honest in your communications. Be honest and fearless in ridding and cutting out excess, the outworn, the old, the stuff you've grown out of, the not you, and like using that Libran sword to cut it out. It's super supported by Pluto, wants you to go there. You've got your friends up there. You've got Venus, Mercury, Sun, Moon, you know, so you've got that inner planet energy to support it. So I really think it's going to be easier than we think to make these changes. You're going to kind of be like, even the lifestyle changes, even the rebalancing, even the cleaning, the interior cleaning, exterior cleaning, you might just be like, wow, I thought that was going to be really hard, and it wasn't, okay? So again, what the new moon promises, the full moon fulfills, so kind of take note. And again, journaling these events and taking note what you're kind of trying to grow or clear or move toward. And sometimes we're trying to move toward our power or our golden shadow, as they would say. And so this might be some insight into what is blocking you in that. What are you afraid of? What changes that might make in your life or your relationships, and know that this is a great time to do that. Come into the new you, the not yet you, the new that you would like to become, and balance, balance, balance. All right. So weirdly, when I was looking up the tarot for this, and I knew Libra was justice, but I kept thinking, to pull out the card for it, I wanted the visual. So I kept thinking judgment, but I'm like, it's not judgment. I mean, I knew it, but then I'm like, well, why is judgment coming to me? We all wonder that, right? Why is judgment coming to us? So judgment is really associated with Pluto. So I thought I'll just pull these. I pulled, I'll ruin it, but I pulled Pluto, I pulled Saturn and Uranus, the tarot associated with them, to kind of round out the aspects to the new moon. So, judgment. The angel of judgment appears in all his towering majesty and cannot be avoided. The mortal souls who behold him are faced with the knowledge of their life's deeds and how those deeds will affect the life to come. This is a time of rebirth, the last judgment, for the slate is wiped clean from this point on. Those who have the strength to stand up to the assessment of their character will move forward. Those who live in denial are doomed to repeat the old life lessons again and again. When it is time to attend to the call of your deepest vocation, whatever has been standing in your way will be brought to the forefront. Heed the angel's pronouncements with courage and humility. Key ideas: self-assessment, confession, and forgiveness, release from guilt, and rebirth. Pretty cool. Just saying. So we have judgment, which isn't as scary as it sounds. Saturn is associated with the World card. Each of us comes into this incarnation naked and pure, the essence of our unsullied soul, ready for the next adventure in our evolutionary cycle. The oval wreath delineates a portal in time and space, the great cosmic egg from which the world itself was born. The angel, eagle, lion, and bull are the four fixed astrological signs: Aquarius, the element of air; Scorpio, the element of water; Leo, the element of fire, and Taurus, the element of earth. When all the elements are in perfect and harmonious agreement, a cycle is finished and the new cycle begins. You are at such a time now. What has been undertaken is complete. It may or may not have concluded in the way you wished, but it is done. Drop the final veil and step through into the new life that awaits you. Key ideas, completion, perfection of the whole, the balance of the elements, a triumphant emergence from limbo. And then lastly, we have the Fool, the card associated with Uranus. All right. Each of us embarks upon the journey of life with a light heart and an innocent spirit. Every adventure we encounter along the path has the potential for joy. The Fool is the soul who travels the human lifetime seeking knowledge, understanding, and beauty. The carnation she holds symbolizes the incarnation of her spirit in mortal flesh. She has no expectations, only the willingness to live fully in the flow of life's experiences. Her worldly possessions are simple and few, carried in the small pilgrim's bag upon her shoulder. Her companion dog guides her away from the cliff's edge, for he is the part of the consciousness that instinctively protects us from harm. Heeding your instinct's guidance and the call of your spirit toward its purpose, you are always exactly where you are meant to be. Key ideas: beginnings, openness, optimism, trust, innocence, the perfect soul. All right. So just a few key things, key thoughts before I leave you again. The idea of things becoming physical manifestation, and things precipitating down to the physical level. So thinking about embodiment, really being in our bodies. And as we are living in these wonderful vehicles, appreciating the life we have, appreciating the physical body that we have, appreciating our minds, appreciating nature, appreciating all that's around us, appreciating the other, appreciating others, appreciating all that is about them, having gratitude for the experience you have with them, whether it's easy and harmonious or at times less so. Remembering that thoughts are things, and every physical thing that's precipitated begins with a thought. So watching our thoughts, again, speaking words which uplift, knowledge that uplifts, knowledge and words that are not only coming from the mind, but are coming from the heart. They have a nice blend of both, so that we're really being conscious of that. So the high-minded, heart-minded, watching our tongues and speaking of goodness and with goodness. And I think that is it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. And because I'm in Minnesota, who knows, the next time I might be on video, we could have a bunch of snow behind me. So we'll see. I hope you're having a beautiful day wherever you are, and I will see you again soon.